Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to another video here on Keep Running with BK. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about goals for 2022. And unlike last year when I shared a half dozen goals, a lot of details, this year I'm keeping it simple. And I'm going to focus on sharing with you how I plan on going about achieving those goals. So more details to come right after this. Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for joining me here for another video on Keep Running with BK. And today I'm bringing you along on my run. And as you might be able to tell, I'm dealing with all kinds of issues today. I've got camera issues, I've got high wind conditions, I've got sirens going off. But I'm happy to be here sharing with you some thoughts on my goals for 2022, and I hope that all of you are off to a great start in your own running for 2022. And what I'm really going to focus on in today's video is giving thoughts to how I plan on accomplishing those goals. It's one thing to have goals, things that we want to shoot for, but if we don't think through the steps to getting there to accomplish those, oftentimes we can be disappointed that we fall short. And so that's going to be the focus of my video today. So my first goal of the year that I want to talk about is developing my endurance strength, or something I refer to in other videos as building my aerobic capacity. To give you some context, after about 30 years of running, I kind of hit a spot in 2015 where I just lacked motivation, consistency, had a lot of life responsibilities going on, and it was just difficult to find what it took to have any kind of consistent running. So for the next 5 years, I pretty much averaged between 300 and 600 miles per year. And then in 2020, I was making the effort during the pandemic to get out and exercise and try to be more consistent with my running. And in the summer, I discovered the methadone training method, which I gave a try, and it allowed me to build my mileage to where I finished the year with 1,001 mile, which was the first time that I had recorded 1,000 miles for the year in over a decade. And so I set the goal last year to basically average 100 miles a month. In part, the goal was to repeat the 1,000-mile year, but also I wanted to work on consistency. And so I kind of broke it down to 1,200 miles for the year. That's 100 miles on average per month. And I'll admit, when I made that goal, it was a pretty soft goal. I felt pretty confident that I'd be able to do it if I could stick with the running. I pretty much stuck with the MAF training method the majority of the year. And end result is I blew the result out of the water. I tend to be a little conservative in general, and my goal wasn't to do something crazy as much as just put a carrot out there for me to, again, work on consistency and really want to repeat the feat and see how things went. At the end of the day, actually at the end of the year, I actually recorded 1,670 miles, which ultimately was the most miles I've ever recorded in a given calendar year that I have record of, which is very, very exciting. So my goal this year is 1,800 miles. And that's stretching myself a little bit. It's not as soft as last year's was. And the plan for me really to achieve that is my training year is basically set up where the winter and summer months are basic easy running, low heart rate running, following the Maffetone training principles, which, by the way, I'm running easy on all my runs, but I'm experiencing an elevated heart rate that I've got to figure out what's going on. It could be some changing of eating habits, sleeping habits, and things like that during the holiday season. I just got to get back to my routine, but I'm going to dial that in. But by keeping it easy, my goal is to build my mileage by averaging 30, 35, 40 miles a week for January, February, and March. Then in the summer, my goal is to go 40, 45, 50 miles a week. I've never done a 50-mile week, and my goal this year is to average that for the month of August. How are you? So that in itself is going to be a challenge, but I feel very good about it based on how I've gone about my training this past year, really building the consistency. I averaged in the mid-30s and even into the 40s, far more consistent than any year before. In the past, having a 40-mile week was a highlight, maybe 3 times a year. And this past year, I'll put up on the screen when I look it up, but I know I had quite a few 40 plus mile weeks. And so I want to continue building my endurance strength, my aerobic engine, mostly through easy miles and building up gradually. And I believe that I'll achieve my goals of 1,800 miles for the year. I'm feeling a bit challenged because for me to find a direction to run where the wind isn't as bad, I don't have the best lighting, so hopefully this is working out. The second goal I have this year is working on my 10K speed. So I want to build my mileage, I want to build my endurance strength, my aerobic capacity, and then on the speed side of things, I chose the 10K speed just because over the years the 10K was probably my favorite distance to race, and probably one I felt fit me as a runner more than any other distance. So I'd like to get back to training in that, getting a feel for that, and I'm going to primarily achieve that in the spring months when I have an 80-20 training block where I will do a lot of intervals and threshold runs with the goal of maybe doing a 10K race or a 10K time trial, see if I can't beat my time from last year, but just really to develop my overall speed. In those months as well, another way I plan on testing my speed is there's a local Strava segment where I currently sit at the number 2 spot that I set last year, and I'm only really a few seconds away from taking the top. So it's probably a soft goal, but it's one that during the spring when I'm doing my speed work, I'd like to take the top on that leaderboard and see where it goes from there. So before I get into my third and final goal for the year, I just want to take this opportunity to remind you that, as I shared in my last video, I started a virtual running club on Strava for those of you who support and follow the channel. So if you're on Strava or you want to go out there and sign up, it's a social media platform for endurance athletes where they track their training, and you can sign up for the club. I'll put a link in the show notes below, and then we can follow each other's training and talk about club activities and interact more than you can practically do here on YouTube. And if you're new here, consider subscribing and checking out other videos on the channel. One of the things that I shared as well in my last video were some exciting and fun plans for the channel, where I'm going to host a virtual event once per quarter, which will be a fun opportunity for those of us here in the Keep Running with BK community to do some running, interact with one another, encourage one another, challenge one another. And coming up this spring, probably in the March time frame sometime, we're going to do a virtual 5K prediction run. And so I'll be sharing more details about that and how you can sign up and participate. But you're going to want to subscribe. It's free, it doesn't cost you anything. But subscribe so you can stay up to date with future videos coming out, where I'll be sharing more details about that. Woo. It is windy out here. And now for my last goal of the year. It's very similar to one of the goals I had last year. My intentions last year was to return to the road marathon and run the Cleveland Marathon in the spring. But due to COVID, that got postponed to the fall, and I had other plans. And so this year, I think, is the year where I finally want to return and get that road marathon back. I've done 14 marathons in the past, and it's been over a dozen years now, maybe more, since I last did a road marathon. And I'm looking probably in the October-November time frame, and right now I'm leaning towards revisiting the Louisville, Kentucky Marathon. I ran that back in 2004, and I think the timing works out great for me. I think it's on a Saturday, if I remember correctly. That's great for me as well. But with the focus of how do I plan on achieving those goals, obviously building my training volume over the course of the year, staying consistent with that, as well as working on my 10K speed, which all the great marathoners throughout history have always had really good 10K speed. I'm certainly not putting myself in that class, but it's one of those things where I thought focusing on the 10K speed would be a good way to go into the summer's base training, emerge in August averaging about 50 miles a week, which would be the most that I've ever averaged. If I can achieve that, and I think that'll really set the stage for me to go into Louisville Marathon, or whichever marathon I end up choosing in the fall, feeling confident and ready to go and just have a great time running a marathon. So there you go. Those are my 3 goals for the year. I'm going to build my endurance strength, targeting 1,800 miles for the year. I'm going to work on my 10K speed and set the new segment record here on top of the leaderboard in the spring. And then in the fall, I want to target a fall marathon. What are some of your goals for this year? And in a sentence or two, how do you plan on achieving your goals? I'd really like to hear what you guys have planned, so feel free to comment in the comments below. Whew. And until next time, stay safe, train smart, and keep running. My goodness, hopefully the third time is a charm. Dealing with wind today. During the second take, they're testing the emergency alert system right as I was getting into it, so we're gonna wait for this to pass and I guess give it another shot.